Hello, viewers and subscribers. Welcome to Blackford's Art of Learning. In today's 7th grade lesson, we will be continuing our standard RI 7.9, comparing or analyzing two or more authors writing about the same topic. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So welcome to middle school. We're going to follow our learning pathway today. And our quote for today is, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams," by Eleanor Roosevelt. Analyze how two or more authors writing about the same topic shape their presentations of key information by emphasizing different evidence or advancing different interpretation of facts. So this is part 2 of our lesson that we started. Let us look at this anchor chart on comparing text. So we're looking at the genre of the text. What is the genre of the two stories? How do we know? Remember, we focused on different genre. What similarities can you find between the stories? What differences can you find? What conclusions or generalizations can you make about the genre? How are the themes of each story similar or different? All right. When we're looking at the same topic, we look at what main topic connects the text. How is the focus of each passage the same or the information is presented? Compare and contrast the information presented in each passage. Consider how another text about the same topic might be different or similar. Which key details from each text would you combine to write one text about the topic? What questions do you still have after reading both texts? So these are some things we bear in mind as we compare texts. All right, let us go ahead and watch this video. It's an instructional video on our standard.
My name is Dr. Switzer, and today we're going to learn about comparing two or more texts at the same time. A few words that we're going to hear throughout this lesson are analyze, which means to look closely, compare, to look at similarities and differences, and contrast, to compare to show differences. Many ask, why do we have to compare text? Well, here's an example. Imagine two different chocolate bars. They both need to satisfy the customer, but one might do it through a cookie center and another through the texture of the chocolate. They have the same purpose, but different ways of achieving it. This is the same with using various texts through English. When comparing text, we need to look at the text purpose. One way to compare text is through the purpose that they're aiming to achieve. Two different texts may have the same purpose, but achieve it in different ways. They have the same purpose, but a different subject, or have the same subject, but a different purpose. When comparing texts, consider what they have in common and what's different about them. If they have the same purpose, do they use the same techniques? For example, two newspaper articles could use exaggeration to present completely different points of view at the same time. Look at the text and ask, are they aimed at the same kind of audience or different ones? Within two advertisements, the writers will aim to sell their product, but will have a different target audience in mind. Then we look at our text and say, they could have a different purpose, but the same subject. So here are some questions we need to ask. How do they treat it differently, it being the subject? For example, if you're analyzing two newspaper articles about the same event in the news, how does the language show how the writer has aimed the writing for a particular audience? How have the writers shown a different opinion towards the same subject? These are all questions to ask when comparing text. Use the following steps that we're about to discuss to get as much information from the text as possible. 1. Read each text very carefully. Examine times if necessary, several times. Identify the type of text. Is it a magazine article, a letter, a textbook, a diary, a newspaper editorial, an academic essay, or something else completely? Then look, does it identify the text topic? What is it talking about? Also, you can look at identifying the text purpose. Does this text merely entertain you? Does it inform you through sets of facts? And does it try to persuade you to accept a position or perform an action? Some other steps to look at: identify the author's main idea or argument. What is the primary position or main message that the author is presenting about the topic? Another step, identify the reasons and evidence of the author uses to support or explain the main idea. What point does the author use to justify his argument or explain his message? Does he use facts, statistics, stories, examples, excerpts, testimony to support his points? Also, clarify any unknowns about the text. Look up unfamiliar words, research references that are not clear, ask questions about the text, and think critically about whether it's the main idea, reasons, and evidence are clear. Are they connected? Does it make sense? Is it accurate? As you read your first text, go through the 8 steps that we just talked about. Jot down notes in the margins or a separate sheet of paper. Then repeat the process when you look at the second text. All right, so let's practice.
All right, boys and girls, we're going to stop our video here and we'll continue this video in our next lesson. So I hope you have listened. Now it's your turn to share out what you have learned from this video on analyzing 2 texts with the same topic. Okay, so when you're analyzing 2 texts that covers the very same topic, you have to look at the perspective that the authors bring to each text to see what specific details the authors decide to mention in each version of the same topic. Okay?
For our video.
All right, so we are going to participate in a Padlet today. So our Padlet today, we will be as a matter of fact, we'll be doing a flip grid. So today we'll be doing a flip grid activity. So 7th graders will share what they have learned about analyzing 2 or more authors writing about the same topic. So you simply click on the picture of Flipgrid and hit record to start your recording. I think you have 10 seconds in which to do your recording. We're going to look at an example of a video. Hello, everyone. I have learned that authors may write about the same topic, but depending on their purpose, they may choose to focus on different details and evidence about our topic. And we're going to use the picker wheel to select someone who will read for us today. So Pam will be reading. All right, let's start our lesson. We're going to compare some simple water signs and water for the world. I'm going to compare those 2 texts. Desalination or the removal of salt from water. Use the study buddies and close reading to guide your reading. So, desalination has to do with removal of salt from water. Some Simple Water Science by Grace Carter Ham says, as I read this passage, think about the author's purpose, and I'll note the way it determines how the key information is presented. So it says, circle one piece of key information in each paragraph that helps you understand the author's most important ideas. Okay? If 70% of Earth's surface is covered in water, then why do news headlines warn us that water is scarce and that we're running out of it? The problem is that most of the water is salt water, which cannot be used by humans, most land animals, or plants. Only 2.5% is fresh water that can actually be drunk or used to water crops. After years of studying this membrane, scientists have figured out how to copy this desalination technique using a process called reverse osmosis. To understand reverse osmosis, you must first understand osmosis itself. Picture a bowl with two compartments. Separating the two is a semi-permeable membrane, a barrier that allows some molecules to pass through it, but not others. One compartment holds fresh water and the other sugar water. Checking the bowl hours later, you discover that the sugar solution is less sweet than it had been. Osmosis has occurred. Molecules of water have traveled from the freshwater side, an area of no sugar concentration, to the sugar side, an area of high concentration, making the concentrations more equal. In reverse osmosis, the process is reversed. It maximizes areas of concentration instead of equalizing them. The process forces salt molecules in seawater, for example, to separate away from the water molecules rather than allowing them to mix together. Thus, fresh water is born. Today, special desalination plants work to remove salt from seawater, creating potable drinking water. Thanks to seabirds, these plants can help to solve the world's water problems. All right, so we are going to be circling important information in each paragraph. So here it asks us to circle one piece of important information in each paragraph. So let us go back to the text. So in the first paragraph, right away, I know that this is very important. Only 2.5% of the water is fresh water. So out of that 70%. All right, let's see. In the second paragraph, this part is important. After years of studying this membrane, scientists have figured out how to copy this desalination technique using a process called reverse osmosis. Okay. All right. In this paragraph, this part is also important. Osmosis has occurred. Molecules of water have traveled from the freshwater side to the sugar side. In the fourth paragraph, this part is important. The process forces salt molecules in the seawater to separate away from the water molecules. And in the final paragraph, this part is super important. These plants have solved the world's water problems. So we have circled all the we have circled all the important pieces in each paragraph. Now it says, what kind of information does the author include about desalination? We know desalination is the removal of salt from salt water. So underline details about this process. So let's use a different color. Let's look at, so here it says desalination technique using the process called reverse osmosis. So that's important to desalination. What else is important to desalination? In reverse osmosis, the process is reversed. Okay. Yes, so the process forces salt molecules to separate away from the water molecules. So that's important in desalination. Okay. All right, let us move on to the next story. Water for the World by Lee Epstein. It says, this next passage also deals with desalination. I wonder how the focus of this one will differ. I look for key information as I read. So these two authors, they wrote about the same topic, right? So this story was given a report, and this next story is a persuasive essay. So persuasive essay, you're trying to persuade or convince someone about something. So it also says you're going to underline any information in this passage that is the same as or similar to facts presented in some simple water science, the text we just read. All right. So let's read. The essential ingredients for life are food, water, and shelter. Water, of course, is especially important. Not only do we need to drink it to survive, but we also need it to water our crops and take care of livestock, both of which are primary food sources. Without a ready supply of clean, fresh water, however, these needs cannot be met. As the number of people in our world continues to grow, meeting everyone's water requirements becomes more and more challenging. How can this be, though, if most of Earth's surface is water? Although 70% of Earth is covered in water, only a small fraction of that total is fresh water, safe for human use. This amount appears even in smaller when considering that the population has tripled over the last 100 years or so, and our water use has increased sixfold. Not only are there more people, but they are using more water than in the past. In some areas, the supply is dwindling while the demand continues to grow. Given our limited freshwater resources and increased water needs, we must turn to other means of providing adequate water to supply the 1.1 billion people who currently do not have access to clean, safe water. One popular solution for some areas experiencing water stress or an imbalance between water use and resources is desalination. The process manufactures fresh water from seawater. Desalination, or the removal of salt from salt water through reverse osmosis, is now a new idea. The Greeks and Romans were doing it thousands of years ago, one pot full of water at a time. Luckily, technology has made the task easier. As of 2009, there were more than 1,400 desalination plants around the world, producing more than 15 billion gallons of usable water per day. Despite our progress in making desalination a viable solution to the water crisis, we still have a long road ahead. Countries must continue to work towards building more desalination plants to keep up with the growing need for fresh water. Only then will our water resources become as limitless as the sea. All right, so let us now go ahead and underline the information that was similar to the previous story. So this is a persuasive or a way of convincing the reader that we need to turn to another way of obtaining water, which is desalination. So the author is trying to convince or persuade the reader. Okay. So let's underline the similarities now. So not only do we need to drink it to survive, but we also need it to water our crops, was also mentioned in the previous story. Even this part, 70% of the earth is covered in water. Only a fraction of that is fresh water, safe for human use, was mentioned in the previous text. And it also speaks about the process of desalination, which manufactures fresh water from seawater. We can underline this too, because it speaks of desalination and also reverse osmosis. So those were the similar points that the authors use about the same topic, but each of them also had presented their own points, other details, additional details. Okay. All right, let's move on. Use hints on this page to help you answer the question. Which sentence best sums up how the focus of the first passage differs from the second passage? So let's look at A. The first passage describes the growing demand for fresh water, while the second describes the current limits to water resources. All right, so remember we're using a process of elimination. So A is incorrect because both passages describe the limits of water sources. So this is out. The first passage stresses the scarcity of fresh water, while the second explains how salt can be removed from seawater. Scarcity of fresh water, while the second explains how salt can be removed from seawater. So choice B sums up only the first passage. C, the first passage presents the pros and cons of desalination, while the second argues that desalination is the solution to water problems. So C is incorrect. The first passage doesn't include the fact about 1.1 billion people. So C is incorrect because the first passage does not present pros and cons. So D is obviously our most suitable answer. The first passage describes the desalination process, while the second discusses how desalination can help solve the water crisis. So we can see that the author's purpose in the first passage is to describe, and the author's purpose in the second passage was to persuade or convince the reader. Number 2, which of the following explains how the two authors shape their presentations by using similar key information in a different way? A, both authors talk about how people need water to survive, but the second explains what will happen if water needs aren't met. So A is incorrect. So in stating that both authors talk about how people need water to survive, so B, both authors name reverse osmosis as a key part of desalination, but the first explains the science principles used in the process. So B sounds like it could be a possible answer because reverse osmosis is discussed in both texts. However, the first text explains the process. So this could we could leave that one. C, both authors explain that 1.1 billion people don't have clean salt-free water, but the second uses the fact to support desalination. So C is incorrect. The first passage doesn't include the fact about 1.1 billion people. And D, both authors say that only a small percent of Earth's water is fresh, but the first discusses the challenges of finding water. So choice D is incorrect in stating that the first passage discusses the challenges. Okay, so B is our answer. Now let us compare the presentations about desalination in the two passages. Okay, explain how they are alike and different. Describe how the author uses similar and different facts to achieve their unique purposes. Use at least 2 details from the text in your response. So remember, when you're responding, you can either record an audio, do an audio recording, or you can type your response. So both passages discuss the importance of desalination as a way to increase our supply of drinking fresh water. However, some simple water science uses facts about desalination to explain the science behind the process. While Water for the World uses facts about water scarcity, population growth, and desalination itself to suggest that we need to increase the number of desalination plants to help solve the water problem. All right, so you can go ahead and record your response. Okay, boys and girls, thank you for all your hard work and dedication today. Now it's time for us to move on to our small group lesson. And in this lesson, you're going to be comparing these two texts, Lighting Up Diwali and Berlin Festival. So you can use the printed copy that I'll provide, or you can just work on ClassKit. So you compare Lighting Up Diwali to the Berlin Festival of Lights, and you'll answer the questions that follows. Afterwards, you're going to complete News ELA famous speeches, Franklin D. Roosevelt's Pearl Harbor address, and I'll give you a printed copy. You'll also do Common Lit, do Teens Need Recess. So you'll do this, you'll complete this one online and then submit your work. You also have your chapter book, The Other Side of the Sky, chapter 8. And once you're finished, you are going to record key vocabulary and the definitions that you have learned today in your My Book of Words. Please remember the rules of small group. When I'm at a table working with a group, you do not interrupt me. You work quietly in your group to complete all assigned tasks. You can use this cooperative learning strategy in your group. Remember to complete your reflection and feedback at the end of the completion of all assigned tasks. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell. Once again, everyone, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and also turn on the post notification bell. Please be on the lookout for other videos. See you next time.